Hi, it's Mrs. Donahue, and I just wanted to go through flowcharts because they're very important. And I think there were a few pieces that I wanted to make a little bit more clear to everyone. So we're just going to do a quick review so you know what you're doing for future lessons. So first of all, the symbols really matter. And we had from week 5.2 or 5-2, from week 5, we went through the different symbols. So the process symbol here, it shows only one line in and one line out, and that's when there's computation happening. So anything that's happening inside that the user doesn't see at all goes in the rectangle. The parallelogram, I guess, or quadrilateral, I don't really know the shape name, that's an input or output operation. And so one line in and one line goes out. So this is anytime if I said, if I asked you a question, I said, what's your name? That would go inside this. Anytime I print something, it's going to go inside this symbol. So this has to have something that the user sees. If the user doesn't see it, then don't put it in this symbol. This one I like to call the decision diamond. And this one, you have two arrows out. There's a yes or a no. So you're asking some type of a question. You're trying to figure out, does a particular condition exist? So there's a yes and there's a no. There's two flows out. When you're making a decision, put it in a diamond. The terminal symbols are the start and stop. So only one line goes in and one line goes out. And the last thing down here is the predefined process symbol. And that's basically a method. So if you have a method, then you're going to put it in that. And 5-2 actually shows arrows because you need to show directionality in it. So I have some examples for you that I did for all of the flowcharts this week. So the first thing I did was I just wanted to use this particular one because for your for your group project, you guys are going to be doing something and you're going to show methods. And so this is how you do it. So it's this type of one that has the lines in it. So I made a program just for the flowcharts, and I have it starting and ending, and I have it doing all three flowcharts because I wanted to program my flowcharts into NetBeans because I wanted to make sure that my flowcharts were right. So the only way to double check my knowledge, well, I went through the flowchart and I thought I had it right, but I wanted to double check it and put it through NetBeans to ensure that I was indeed accurate when I did it. So I have three different methods going on here. So I have the multiples of 5, I have the add the odd numbers, and I have the natural numbers. And so those names just sort of correspond to names that I made for our flowcharts. So this is what my code looks like in NetBeans. So it's the main method. So here I'm just calling the multiples of 5 method, then I call the add odd method, and then I call the natural numbers method. Now obviously when I was building, hopefully to you all, I didn't build all of them at once. I did one at a time and I made sure that it worked before I moved on to the next one. And I just started at multiples of 5 because that was the less common one that everyone worked on. So here is my multiples of 5 flowchart. So the idea for this was it's going to average the multiples of 5 between 1 and 100. So I have my start, and then it said in the directions that I was going to need to have 3 variables. So I have a sum, n, and count, and I just put them all in one rectangle. So I just created the variables. They're all integers because I'm expecting whole numbers in them. And then I have my decision diamond. So basically I only want the whole numbers between 1 and 100. So I'm checking that n, and I started n at 1 because it says between 1 and 100, and it's checking if it's less than or equal to 100. So this is a decision diamond, so you can see that there's 2 flows out of it. So yes, if it's between, if n is less than or equal to 100, then I'm going to say, I'm checking here, so I'm using the modulus, so I say n modulus 5, is it equal to 0? Because I know if it's divisible by 5, then there's going to be no remainder because modulus is checking for the remainder. So if there's no remainder, then I'm going to go down and I'm going to take my sum, which started at 0, so there was nothing to start with, and I'm going to add n to it. And then I'm going to go down here, this is my counter. So I call my counter count. So count equals count plus 1, because if I'm getting an average, I need to count how many numbers I'm adding together. Because if I don't know how many numbers I'm adding together, then it's not going to work. And then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to do n plus plus. So I'm just going to add. Now some of you might be thinking, Mrs. Donahue, if it's going to go through, why not just add 5 to it? Well, I just wanted to go through each number just in case. You could have increased it by 5 if you wanted, but I wanted to go through every single one and do the test in case I make a mistake and something's not divisible by 5, although I do know that it would be. And that's also the no for this decision diamond, because I need to increment to the next number no matter what. So if it's no, I'm not going to do this adding part, so I'm not going to add it in. But I still need to get to the next n, because that n is what's going to make me go through every single number between 1 and 100. And so then finally, my final test is going to, as soon as it gets to 101, because it's going to go through positive when it's 100. When it's 101, it's going to say no. And it's going to print the sum divided by the count. So it's going to have everything totaled, and it's going to divide it by the count, and then my program's going to end. So let's see what it looks like when I coded it. And I put in sort of blue my comments so you can see how I'm testing my code. So first of all, everyone needs to comment their code. A lot of you are not commenting at all, and you're losing points, and you're going to end up losing more and more points as you go on. So definitely start commenting your code. So I'm going to add together the multiples of 5 from 0 to 100. And I guess that should say 1 to 100. And so I ended up doing a while statement. So you can see how my code, so I went right from my flowchart into my coding. So these 3 lines of declaring and giving values to my new variables, I did it right here. So it looks exactly like that. Then when I come to a decision, I know I need to have some type of a loop, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't have this going through. So first I have a loop. So I just did a while loop. I thought that was going to be easier. You could do a for loop if you wanted. So I said, as long as n is less than or equal to 100, and look, it's the exact same code from here. And then there's another decision diamond, but this one is more of an if statement, because I only want to do these things if it's divisible by 5. So I have an if statement in here. So sum equals sum plus n, count equals count plus 1. You can see I'm getting my code exactly from my flowchart. My logic was already done, so this coding was so fast. Then you can see I have these test printing statements, because I want to make sure I'm getting the right numbers. Before hashtag was called hashtag, it used to be called number. So I print what n is, I print what the sum is, and I print what the count is, because I want to double check if I want to get all of those numbers. I want to make sure that it's getting, when it's inside this loop, that n is a multiple of 5. So I'm looking that it's going to get 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, all the way through 100. So these are just for me, for my test purposes. And then as soon as I know that it's right, I could delete them out. I left them in here so you could see what they looked like. Then I close my while loop. And so you can see this lines up with my while. It's a little bit off just because I pasted it in here. And then outside of the loop, outside of this if statement, so this is the if statement one. So outside of the if statement, and then inside, still inside the while loops, I'm sorry, my while goes here, I have to increment n by 1. So that's the n plus plus, so that's happening here. So you can see this part in my flowchart happens outside of this loop, which is right here. And both of them, both if it's in the if statement and just if it fails the if statement, I still have to increment n, or else my loop will go on forever. So that's inside there. Then my while loop closes right here. And then outside of the loop, when everything's all done, when I fail, when I say nope, as soon as I reach 101, it's going to kick out of my loop. That's when I'm going to print. And so I ended up doing a print statement. So I said the average multiples of 5 from 1 to 100. So I put, see if I can get, I want this to go away. See if I exit that. Nope, that didn't work. But here we go. So you can see out here that I ended up adding math.round just in case, because I want it to be a whole number. It worked out anyway. So I said the sum divided by the count, and that's all I needed to do for that one. So on my next one, now that I want to advance the slide, it's not moving. So the next one is the add odd method. So for this one, I start, and then I'm going to, whoops, I moved slides again. So my flowchart, I start, and then I declare my variables. Then I have my decision diamond. So is n less than or equal to 100? Because again, I only want to add the numbers between 0 and 100. So if it's yes, then it's going to do a check. And it's going to say, all right, is it not equal to 0? Because if I want to do the odd numbers, I don't want those darn even numbers. So if I wanted it to be even, it would be 2 equals. And actually, when I first did this, I forgot to put the not in. And so I was getting the wrong numbers. And my testing print line is what alerted me to that I had my code wrong. So that's why it's really important. So then I do the sum equals sum plus n. I increment, and I'm going through that loop again. When it's not less than or equal to 100, then again, it's going to be 101. I'm just going to print the sum, and then I'm going to end. So let's see what that code looks like. So that's over here. So again, my comments. So I'm adding together the odd numbers from 0 to 100. I still put n at 1, and obviously, if I put n at 0, I could put n at 0. But I didn't do that. Because 0 doesn't add anyway, so I can just start at 1. The other thing that I'm doing here is I test the print below. So again, I put what sum is and what n is, because I want to double check to make sure I'm getting the right numbers. So this also has a while loop, and it has an if inside. And so again, I used the exact flowchart to build this code, and then I ran it and it worked. And so my last one is for the natural numbers from 1 to 50. And for this one, I have my 2 variables declared. Again, on my decision diamond, I'm checking to make sure it's less than or equal to 50. If it is, then I'm going to add the numbers together, and then I'm going to increment. If I don't have this incrementing inside, then I would never get out of this loop. As soon as I hit 51, I'm going to kick out of my loop. I'm going to print the sum, and then I'm going to end my program. So here is my code for this one. So the variable declaration matches that. Commenting, saying what the code is supposed to be doing. My while loop, look, it looks exactly like my decision diamond. Inside, I'm just going to add. So this one doesn't have the extra if statement. So just doing sum equals sum plus n. I still print out the test statement to make sure it's getting all of those numbers. And then I do n plus plus to increment. My while loop closes, so it lines right here, and then I print it out. I print some nice words to go with the output so the user knows what it is, and then I am done. So I'm going to show you what the code looks like. Let me escape out of this, and we're going to go into NetBeans. So here is what the code looks like, and I'm going to show you when I do my print statements. So watch, I'm going to undo them. So if I was just to run this code without the print statements, I'll show you what it looks like. So it gives the average, I spelled it wrong. Spelled lots of things wrong in here, but at any rate, so it gives me 52, it gives me 2,500 for all the odd numbers, and it gives me 1,275 for all the natural numbers. So I don't know if that's right. I don't know if it's wrong. I need to dig a little bit deeper, so I needed to add in some print statements. So I'm going to show you what they look like when I run them with the print statements. So I'm just going to first do these print statements for my first method. Okay, so then I can go back through and I can double check to make sure my code is right. So if I go back to the beginning, so n starts at 5. So I have 5, 10, 15. That's looking right. My count starts at 1 and then it goes to 2. So that's looking right. So I look at that and I verify that I'm going to the end, and I'm making sure n, it gets 100, so that's excellent because I wanted to include 100, and then it's just summing each time, and then my count is 20, and so I can feel confident now that my code is right because I did a quick verify. So now I'm going to add my comment lines back in so we can do the next method. And so I did this as I went. I didn't do it all at once like I'm doing now. This code was built step by step. So I'm running the next line of code. So this is going to add all the odd numbers. So I'm expecting to see 1, 3, 5, 7. Here we go. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Yay! So that's working. And then it's adding them together. So I know 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 5 is 9. So that also looks good. So I'm obviously not checking every single thing. I'm doing spot checks. I'm checking the beginning and the end. So it gets all the way up to 99. Excellent. So I want it to get 99. I don't want it to get 100. And then it's totaling. And so I can look that one. So I can feel confident that that is correct. So now I can comment out this line because I don't need it. And now I'm going to go down to my last one, the natural numbers. So this one is supposed to add all the natural numbers from 1 to 50. So I'm going to hit play and see if this works. So I'm going to go back to the top, and remember we always check the top and the bottom of the code. Okay, so here we go, natural numbers. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is getting every single number. Excellent. And then it's adding them together. So 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. All right, so that's looking correct. And then I go to the bottom, and I'm making sure it gets number 50 because I want it to include number 50, which it does. And so then I can feel confident again that my code is completely accurate and my flow charts are right. So there's no reason why I shouldn't get 100 because I've double checked everything. So I want to make sure that you guys do this. You're going to need to, for your group projects, who's ever taking on the flow charting portion of it, needs to make sure that you have accurate symbols and that your flow charts are an accurate representation of how your code works. So if you have any questions, send me a message.